Hi everyone, I'm Dr. Jade-Isis Lefebvre and I'm a psychologist here at Concordia. Today's video is to talk about this idea of reintegration, and it's a theme that I'm hearing a lot in our community and from the students. So what is it like to reintegrate after a year and a half of so much uncertainty and so much change? What's it like to come back to our communities, to come back to our friends, to come back to our families, to come back to our hobbies, to come back to campus and other different systems that you're a part of? So when we talk about this, a lot of people mention that they experience anxiety, and when we think about what anxiety means and the definition, it's a embodied physical, heart, emotional, and mental experience when we're faced with stress, uncertainty, fears, things that are uncomfortable, things that might be threatening, when we don't know what the outcome is going to be. So when you're thinking about anxiety, it's really interesting to ask yourself, okay, how is each part of me feeling? My body, my heart, my mind, so you can get a better sense of how your anxiety is showing up in these particular circumstances, which might be in your personal life, but also your academic life or even your work life. And they might show up differently in all of them. What I'm hearing, and hopefully this can help validate you, what I'm hearing a lot from students and what some of my colleagues are hearing is that a lot of people are worried about this general idea of reintegration. So are we going back to what we had before? Are we moving forward and sort of moving into more change and adapting even more? And the thing with change is that it's really hard. It takes so much courage to face the things that are hard and uncomfortable and uncertain. And we've been having to face all of this change for such a long time, and now you're faced with more. So it takes a lot of courage to sort of say, like, okay, I'm going to face these changes and see how I react and see how I am, and hopefully become stronger throughout them. One of the specific fears that people are having on campus is, what is it like to return to campus? What are the sanitary rules like? What will I have to adapt? What will our community look like? What will it be like to talk to professors? Will they be available for me? What will exams feel like? I've been adapting to being on exams online for the last year and a half. I sort of feel like I got my groove. Now I have to readapt to taking on exams in person. Will some still be online? There's just so many questions in terms of what the logistics of being on campus will really look like. From a more interpersonal level, a lot of students and I think even people in your community that aren't students might be feeling this way, is how do I make new friends? How do I reconnect with people? Maybe we've been a little bit more isolated and more interior and having an experience that's more connected to ourselves in the last year. How do I go out and connect with people again? How do I know if they're comfortable with me approaching them? How do I know if they want to talk to me? How do I respect my own boundaries when I'm not comfortable? So this brings up a lot of questions, and on top of that, from more of a life perspective, throughout all of this change, oftentimes what happens is that we're either more connected to our values or we become different people. So how are we able to keep the things that we've learned in the last year and a half that have been helpful and positive as we move into this new phase, or as we move into a new kind of challenging or open or even celebratory period? So a lot of people are kind of asking themselves, how do I remain true to myself, true to my new self, as I move forward? You can really take some time to ask yourself these questions, and I recommend you could even pause this video if you want and see if you can answer just these 3 questions that I'm proposing now. I would say are pretty the main ones. Ask yourself first, what am I worried about? Second, what are some of the barriers that I can see might arise that would be difficult for me in the next few months? In the last year, what did I learn that I want to maintain, or what are some of the values that I have that I want to maintain as I either reintegrate, move forward, or whatever word you feel is kind of best for this next phase of life? Okay, good. If you've written them down, you've taken time, you've paused this video, you can kind of come back to our next kind of topic, which would be the strategies. So as counselors and as psychologists and as individuals who want to help support students in the community, we thought we would like to talk about strategies that can help us as we move forward. for lots of different elements in our lives, not necessarily just this topic today. So some of these strategies you may have used before, you may have heard before, or you may like to use in the future. One of the first strategies we like to talk about is this mental preparation, which is one element of anxiety that we talked about. A really nice way to start preparing for something difficult is visualizing yourself back on campus, moving into your classroom, asking questions, whatever might be difficult for you. Close your eyes, take some deep breaths, and really visualize yourself doing that activity or that motion or that thing, feeling confident, doing it well, so that you have an experience that can feel good as you move in. This can help for your mental preparation. It can help also with planning different situations and help you feel confident as you move into campus. Another strategy is grounding. Grounding can happen by just feeling your body on the floor, so pressing your feet to the floor, your hands to your knees, taking some deep breaths to help yourself feel connected to your body and where you are in the moment. From a thought perspective, grounding can be helpful because you can think about how you're here right now. So it's a thought and a physical experience. It's calming too, so I guess you have some emotions in there. Another thing that you can do is really identify what your worries are. So you can, as you have written them down, you can draw an arrow to the worries that you have in the reflection that we just did. If you haven't written them down, write them down. And you can draw an arrow with a more accurate thought that you might want to hold on for yourself. So we call this cognitive restructuring, or identifying more positive thoughts to our negative automatic thoughts. So you can Google that if you're not quite sure what these things are, but I don't want to go into too much detail to keep this video as short as possible. So we mentioned also a physical element to anxiety, and breathing can be a really good way. In fact, it's one of the best ways to help cope with your physical anxiety so that you can kind of be more clear-minded and emotionally open to cope with the anxiety that you're feeling. One of the techniques, there's so many techniques for breathing, but one of the techniques that I find works really well, especially if you're going back to campus or into your community, is identifying something on campus that is a reminder for you to take a deep breath. So it might be a color, it might be a Concordia sign, it might be an exit sign, maybe every time you see a plant. So identifying kind of a cue that can kind of remind you to take a deep breath so that you can continue to regulate your physical body and your physical experience as you move throughout campus or through different challenging situations. Having a buddy system is also encouraging because you can talk about these things with some of your friends. So this is more of an emotional experience and helping your emotional state feel better. Having a buddy system can help you feel confident and safe in a time where you're maybe not feeling so safe. So if you have a friend that's also coming back to campus, you don't necessarily have to see them, but you can text them, send them voice notes, and take some time during the day just to connect and chat. In terms of another body experience, one of the things we like to recommend is finding a safe space on campus. So this can be an office of someone you know. It can be, I like nature, so I like to have times around plants or trees outside. If you're on downtown campus, there's still some plants you can find nearby. If you prefer kind of more of a city feel, maybe there's a spot near campus that makes you feel really good. So thinking about where on campus you feel best and then going to those places just to relax, take some time to yourself, recenter, ground, practice any of these strategies we mentioned before, and hopefully it will help support you as you move forward during the day. My last and favorite strategy would be to engage in more self-compassion. Self-compassion is this idea that a lot of individuals are struggling, that it's part of the human experience to struggle, and that you are human too, and you're allowed to struggle. And by being mindful of how your body and your emotions and how everything that you experience happens, you're able to choose to be kind to yourself rather than to be kind of critical or difficult with yourself that actually ends up making it a lot harder. So choosing to be kind to ourselves can really help validate our experience. It helps us label our emotions. It helps us be more present in the moment. And actually, research shows it helps us be more resilient and open to the challenges that we face. So we have more space to actually be performant, to be motivated, to be engaged when we're more self-compassionate. On campus, there's a lot of I would say offices that are really interested in trying to help support you through this next change. We're here for you, and we're excited to get to see you back on campus, and we wish you all the best as you move forward in this next phase. Cheers.